Good evening, everyone. Let me call to order this meeting of the West Palm Beach City Commission. Today is Tuesday, September 3rd, 2024, and the time is 5 p.m. We will start this meeting off as we do all of our meetings with a moment of silence, please. Commissioner Lambert, can you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Let me read out the rules of civility and decorum which govern this body. In this meeting, officials shall be recognized by the chair and shall not interrupt the speaker. Public comment shall be addressed to the City Commission as a whole and not to any individual on the dais or in the audience. Displays of anger, rudeness, ridicule, impatience, lack of respect, and personal attacks are strictly prohibited. Unauthorized remarks from the audience, stamping of feet, whistles, yells, and similar demonstrations shall not be permitted. Please govern yourselves accordingly, as offenders may be removed from the meeting. Also, any person wishing to speak shall complete a comment card for each agenda item the person wishes to address, which shall include the person's full name, address, and the numbered agenda item. If the comment card is not completed, the person will not be recognized. Thank you. Ms. Johnson, are there any additions, deletions, reorganization of the agenda?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Very good. All right, we will start then with item 6.1, which is a presentation to the City Commission of the proposal received under ITN number 23-24-500 for the purchase and/or lease and development of properties located on the Broadway corridor. Ms. Ferriel.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Commissioners, members of the public. Jennifer Ferriel, Housing and Community Development Director. The purpose of today's meeting is to present the City Commission the proposal that was received for the development of the 5 vacant parcels along the Broadway corridor. Those 5 parcels total up to 0.74 acres, and the goal here is to determine if the proposed solicitation that's received, if staff could proceed with negotiations. Just for some context, I want to provide a timeline of the actions taken. On November 13th, the City Commission declared the properties as surplus and determined the method of disposition to be issuance of an invitation to negotiate. On June 10th, the City Commission authorized the solicitation document, which was subsequently issued on June 14th, and it had a deadline for submittal of June 24th, 2024. On such date, City staff received one proposal, and that was from 2823 Broadway OZQ LLC. I don't know why the presentation is being cut off, but nonetheless. In accordance with the solicitation document, one review committee was established, and that review committee consisted of myself, of our Community Redevelopment Agency Executive Director, Chris Rug, and our Development Services Assistant Director, Ana Maria Aponte. The solicitation was reviewed in a public meeting with the procurement official on August 15th, 2024. In our review of the proposal received, staff ranked the proposals based on the following criteria. There was really no ranking as we only received one, but in essence, we reviewed the project development concept and the consistency with the project goals, the mixed income housing requirements as stated in the solicitation document, the qualifications of the developer, the best use, determining if the site or the proposed concept was the best use of the site, and any economic benefits derived. As a result of our review, 2823 Broadway LLC received a total score of 232 for an average of 77.33 out of 100. Before I present the project, I do want to talk a little bit and remind you of the actual goals and objectives that were presented or that were part of the solicitation document, as well as some development challenges that we have or that exist in the Broadway corridor. So in essence, what was reviewed or what was stated in the solicitation document was that we were looking for a project or a development that considered or that provided a mixed use, including residential and or commercial or retail, a project that provided a significant amount of workforce housing and or mixed income housing options, including housing between 80% of the area median income and 120% of the area median income. It was important for a project that incorporated visually appealing design elements, as well as one that enhanced the overall quality of the surrounding neighborhood, including the single-family residential neighborhood that's directly adjacent from the site. It was important to have a project that spurred additional redevelopment along the corridor and provided economic impact as well as community benefits, including small business and minority women participation and local hiring, and ultimately a project that generated return to the city through a new tax revenue attributable to the project. One of the things that was also important for me, and I was only one individual in the selection or in the review committee, but also as a project manager, is that I also wanted to take into consideration and be very clear about the existing challenges that exist in the Broadway corridor. This governing body is very familiar with what those challenges are. That's the main reason why the CRA is looking at the BMUD incentives that are currently being evaluated and why we're taking a large effort into redeveloping Broadway. And some of those potential challenges that actually hinder the economic viability of projects, it includes, number one, it's in a blighted neighborhood, and it's been really slow to follow on the urban development trends. We've seen a lot of the properties, yes, they've been purchased, but they haven't been able to be developed. Why? Because of the size of the lots on the Broadway corridor, taking into consideration the building massing and the height of any development and how it correlates to the single-family residential housing units. We've seen an increase in property values. For example, in 2021, 2022, there was a high influx of purchase of land on the Broadway corridor. And it was very expensive. I remember when this project or this site was going to be developed, sites were going for $50,000 per parcel. And now we're seeing projects being sold at or projects at $35, $50 per acre, per square foot per acre. So we've seen a high increase in the property values. We've seen an increase in construction costs as well. While construction costs have not escalated at the extent that they did in 2019, 2020, we are seeing that construction costs have also not gone down and they continue to increase in smaller amounts. We've also seen a significant increase in interest rates, specifically for construction financing. Just to give you a very rough estimate and a big picture example, a $35 million construction loan with an 8.25 interest rate over a 24-month term, we're seeing at over $5 million alone in interest costs alone that a project would have to absorb. So you're looking at a significant cost just in interest rates. And of course, what we've seen throughout the state of Florida is an increase in insurance premiums and insurance rates. So taking that all into consideration, I think it's important for this governing body and for the members of the public to understand just some of the challenges as it relates to not just this project, but the Broadway corridor as a whole. Before I present, I also want to indicate that we do have representation here from the development team. Daniel Marakovitz is here, as well as Benji Powers. They are the managers or the project managers for the site. The principals, Jonathan Vilma and Mr. Procida, are not available, but we do have representation from the development team. So, in essence, the proposed project does meet the goals of the ITN in the sense that it does provide a mixed-use, mixed-income project. The developer intends to develop a 7-story mixed-use building. I will state, however, that there is currently in the BMUD regulations, there is a cap of 3 stories. However, the developer, in accordance to what they stated in their solicitation document, they intend to utilize the Live Local Act in order to accomplish the 7-story height. I will say that based on our review, the project does not qualify under the Live Local Act. However, the project does have the ability to look into or to utilize or explore the city's newly adopted affordable housing workforce housing overlay, which provides for an additional 3 stories for a total of 6. Now, we'll talk a little bit more about that, but as proposed, the developer is proposing, again, 7 stories consisting of residential and commercial space, 151 units of residential housing, all under 120% of the AMI, with 23 of those units at 80% of the AMI with a 30-year affordability period. The developer is also proposing a commercial space and other uses, including 6,000 square feet of ground retail space, 7,000 square feet of a linear park, and a 166-unit parking structure. I want to point out that the developer does own the adjacent 2 parcels that are contiguous to the properties at 2823 Broadway and 610 28th Street. This is obviously very advantageous to the project as it encompasses the entire block and provides for a greater impact along the Broadway corridor. Just some renderings. As you can see, there's the frontage along Broadway. You can see a bird's eye aerial view from the rear of the building, the eye level view from 27th Street and Broadway. And you can see that the developer did take into consideration just the single family adjacent units that are behind the property. And you can tell that with their design, they want to make sure that they are conscientious of the single family residential housing. As it relates to the mixed income housing proponents, the proposal does meet the goals of the ITN as it does provide for a mixed income housing options. There is no market rate housing that is included. We'd like to negotiate that, hopefully, if this project moves forward, as we want to ensure that there are some market rate housing options along Broadway once the market has been established. It's argued that right now the workforce housing levels are indeed market rate, but hopefully with this project that will change with time, and so we will have a variety of housing options on this site. As I previously stated, the development as is does not support the criteria for the Live Local Act. However, the developer will have the ability to explore the Affordable and Workforce Housing Overlay Program, which again provides 3 additional stories in the BMUD mixed-use district for a total of 6. As a result of that, the developer will have to set aside 50% of their bonus units at affordable or workforce housing levels. I looked at the unit mix and the distribution, so that would mean that approximately 40 units, assuming that they go up to 6 stories, it would mean that 40 units would have to be set aside at workforce or affordable housing levels, with 25 at 80%, 45% at 100% AMI, and the remaining 30% at 120% AMI or less. The remaining units may be at market rate unless we negotiate other additional provisions. From an economic benefits perspective, it is obvious that as there's been no redevelopment in the Broadway corridor in a very long time, this project will serve as a catalyst in that neighborhood and spur additional redevelopment. The project is proposing that during the construction, over 100 jobs will be created, and they're also committing to 18% small business and WMBE participation, as well as 15% of the labor to be from the local economy. From a best use perspective, and as I previously stated, the developer does present a project that fulfills the best use for the site. They currently own the site located at 610 28th Street and 2823 Broadway. And the proposed project, again, it enhances the overall quality and appeal of the neighborhood and really does take into consideration the adjacent single-family residential neighborhood. I will say again that during our discussion and our review, the Assistant Development Services Director did have some comments or greater comments for the overall design, but that will be later negotiated should we proceed with this project. One of the key components, or one of the most critical components, as it did tally to a total of 30 points, was the overall developer qualifications. As I stated, Mario Procida and Jonathan Vilma are the managing partners. They are not here today, but Benji Powers and Daniel Marakovitz, who are the project managers for the site, are here today. The developer has demonstrated significant experience with public-private partnerships, specifically with other local housing authorities and local governments. They did a great job showing their financial capacity as they provided a very detailed pro forma, and they were very transparent with their financial documents. They were also demonstrated a lot of experience with developing affordable housing and with their knowledge of tax credit, HUD financing models, and other creative funding methods. The project is proposing, or the developer is proposing, a purchase price of $500,000. This is less than what the appraised value of the property is. One of the appraisals was $1.5 million. The other appraisal was $1.87. However, we will say that, as I previously stated, there may be some issues with land costs along the Broadway corridor and just with the existing owners and what the comps were that were looked at with the appraisal. The developer is also seeking some assistance from the city and/or the CRA in the amount of $3 million. Again, this is just to ensure that the project is financially feasible, but these are all items that will have to be negotiated should we proceed with this project. So in accordance with the solicitation document, as this is the only solicitation that was received, staff does recommend for City Commission to consider negotiating with the existing developer. Some of the key terms that we intend to negotiate, of course, are the overall concept plan and the design, the height bonus, the overall housing and unit mix, not only the purchase price, but also the purchase and/or lease terms, any city or CRA funding incentives that may be provided. They did provide a community engagement plan, but I'd like to see more details of that. And of course, any other key terms that are directed by the City Commission that are discussed here today or throughout the negotiations. So with that said, should city staff or should the City Commission agree to move forward with this project, the city staff will negotiate the terms with the selected developer. We will ensure that there is a financial feasibility analysis that is conducted by a third party. We will do that even before bringing forward a term sheet. And then obviously, ultimately, we will come to you for approval of the term sheet, or depending on the process, we may move forward directly with a contract. I want to remind you that the agreement or any contract that is brought forward must be approved via ordinance of the City Commission, meaning that we need 2 readings, and one of which must be approved by super majority vote. With that said, that concludes my presentation, and just one final reminder, we will still be in cone of silence, that meaning no developer nor their representatives can reach out to you until we have a fully executed contract. That concludes my presentation. I'm happy to take any questions at this time.
Thank you, Ms. Ferrier, for that presentation. I'm a little bit uncomfortable. We only have one respondent. Do you know why there are so few? And do we use the normal means of advertising this opportunity?
Yes, Mayor, thank you for that question. We had a lot of interest initially when the ITN was issued. It was published the same way that we've done any other solicitation. It was handled by the city's procurement department. However, it boils down to one thing, Mayor, and that's economics. There was just no way, based on the current land development regulations and all the development challenges that I talked about, I believe it was difficult for developers to make the project work. It wasn't going to pencil out. I believe that the primary reason why this developer submitted was because they do own the adjacent land and they could make the project work because of that additional size or lot size, meaning they were able to build enough. So again, the project was financially feasible. But in terms of our methods for seeking solicitations, we followed the same that we have done for any other project in the city. And I also want to add that we've sent the solicitation. I provided procurement with all of our lists of developers. We have an internal developers list, which consists of every time we've done a roundtable discussion, anytime we've done the developers meeting with development services, we keep a list of those interested parties, and the solicitation was sent to all of them as well.
Is there any particular urgency for doing this deal now? I mean, with interest rates projected to fall, why don't we just hold on to it and rebid and re-advertise?
I will say, Mayor, I'm not sure that we will get much if we re-advertise this project. I don't believe, there is urgency in the sense that we would like to see something along the Broadway corridor. This is the second project that we've tried on this specific site. There was there's been a lot of discussion, a lot of push, especially from the president of the commission, to try to get something happening along the Broadway corridor, and this will spur the additional development. This project would create a market for it. I think it's worth exploring or looking into the negotiations. Of course, if we can't come to terms that work, we're not in any obligation to proceed, but at least to explore the negotiations. I think it warrants the ability to do that.
How essential to their numbers is compliance with the Live Local? Because we're not under, it's our view that they don't qualify for Live Local. Is that something that is essential to them to do Live Local? And are they willing to do this project if they can't take advantage of Live Local?
That's all stuff that will be penciled out throughout the negotiations. We are not in the liberty of speaking to the developer until determination is made here today.
What I will say is that I am not in favor of going too far below the appraised value. You know, they're offering 500,000. We get the appraisal. I think the minimum appraisal was what, 1.2?
1.5.
1.5 is the minimum?
That is.
As the lower of the two appraisals?
Yes, sir.
All right, so I'm not really interested in going too far below that. So you can communicate that to the potential buyer. Okay, Commissioner Peduzzi and Commissioner Warren, Commissioner Lambert. Okay, Commissioner Peduzzi.
Thank you, Mayor. I have some of the same concerns that you had, that there was only one entity that seemed to be interested in this, but it may be, as Ms. Ferriel said, because they are in a special situation that they own adjacent property. So, this land sat, it sat there for a long time without anything happening with it. I know that we are interested in making something happen in that corridor. And as much as I would like to see more interest in it, you do have a developer that has the financial wherewithal and also has adjacent properties. So I think we need to take a look at that. And I don't know that we want to push things or kick the can down the road too far when this area has been, hasn't really been looked at for some time by the development community. But I have the same concerns that you have, and especially with regard to the offer of the $500,000, which is significantly below the market value. But at the same time, we're going to probably have to do something to kickstart it.
Commissioner Warren.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't believe that this is an ideal proposal. But should we move forward, I believe as we negotiate, a word that we should be using should be perpetuity. Considering what a difference it is in what they're proposing versus what has come in the appraisals, I think that perpetuity is appropriate for workforce and affordable housing, and I think that we should be generous and ask for the workforce and affordable component in this project.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Commissioner Fox.
Thank you, Mayor. I wonder, can you remind us, when you put out the RFP, did it say how many affordable units you were asking for and what the number of stories was that was allowed on the property?
We didn't ask for a specific number of units. We do have that in our workforce housing overlay, so should the developer want to take advantage of that, it's 50% of the additional bonus units. So 50% of that would have to be set aside for affordable or workforce housing, and depending on their unit distribution, that's how we would determine the number of units. So there is no specific in the ITN as it relates to what we were asking, but we did ask for a significant amount, which again, the developer did initially agree to, in their proposed terms, a total of, for the full project to be at 120% AMI or less.
That's what I wanted to clarify. They were proposing that all of the units were affordable housing.
That is correct.
And so you mentioned something about wanting to see more market rate units. Can you explain that a little bit more? I guess when I'm looking at this from my perspective, we're doing everything we can do to find affordable housing. Here is a developer that's coming to us and they want to make an entire project of affordable housing. And I understand the economics don't work, and that is why we mostly have been seeing, the limited amount of affordable housing that we can get through incentives. So I guess I'm just trying to understand. I am not looking to make a fortune on this project. If someone was a good developer, had ideas to stimulate the neighborhood and provide this many units, I would be in favor of exploring that further, but I am just curious if you could explain further about why you were hesitant that there wasn't any market rate. Thanks.
Well, I think traditionally what we're seeing now is mixed income, mixed income housing. So like the grant, for example, and part of it is the stigma that's placed on affordable housing developments, right? We're seeing more models now where you see a variety of affordable housing or housing uses. So for example, you could have a certain level at 80%, a certain level of 120, some market rate. That was staff's comments, but if the city commission wants this to be a fully affordable project, that's what we will negotiate, if that's the direction that is given. That is just based on just what we're seeing and wanting to create more diverse income ranges in specific projects, and also because along the Broadway corridor, it's predominantly all affordable and workforce now to begin with. So to establish a new market rate, you have to create some sort of market for it, which currently doesn't exist. So that was staff's thought process as it relates to that. Again, if the city commission wants to go in a different direction, we're happy to do that. If you're done, does it answer your question, Commissioner? Thank you. If I may add, Mayor, I also want to talk a little bit about must have been 2018, 2019. We did agree to convey these properties at no cost to a different developer when the market was very different, right? The market, the interest rates were not as expensive. The construction costs were not as expensive. We had it was a different economic time, so we did agree to it at that point for the purposes of spurring the development in the Broadway corridor. The CRA is also conducting an analysis, and they're looking at the entire Broadway corridor to determine the feasibility of potential projects. And based on what they've looked at, based on what's currently being proposed, a lot of the projects won't work unless there is significant incentives from the city and or the CRA. I don't want to, get ahead of myself by, speaking for the CRA, but there is those analysis being conducted. And again, should we proceed, we will have a third party consultant come in and say, are we over subsidizing this? Are we doing what we can to make the project work, or are we doing what we can, in a sufficient amount so that we can get something going? So we will have that third party. That's very important to all the projects that we do. So I wanted it to be known that it's not just staff looking at this. We're going to have subject matter experts reviewing the pro forma and the overall capability of the project as well.
Commissioner Lambert.
Thank you. I have a few comments, but I have a few questions before that. Can you give us do you have any more detail about this feasibility analysis? Because that was along the lines of my question is, you've mentioned anecdotally, about this lot being vacant and about the prices of land in that area. Can you kind of describe to us what's happening in that area?
Well, that was kind of what I was speaking to as it relates to the development challenges on the corridor. Again, there hasn't been much development. A project is coming in. In order for them to get financing, they have to look at the comps in the area. There's no comps in the area. Everything there is, low income, blighted neighborhood. So when they're going to obtain financing, it's not possible for them to do that because there is nothing to compare it to, right? You have the lot sizes that are very small, so they can't go and build significant amount of height or massing just because, again, the lot sizes are small. And so then the financials don't work. They won't be able to obtain, investors, because if there isn't a significant return on their investment, it's going to create their inability to finance the project. Again, when you're looking at the single-family residential housing, again, they can't get the massing or the height that's needed to develop the units to make the project financially feasible because they have to take into consideration the residential housing, and that limits their height and their ability to build what they're able to build. The increase in construction costs, the increase in financing rates, the increase in insurance rates, all of this makes the project very expensive to build, and if there isn't, again, a significant return, they're not going to be able to finance the deal. Hence why, they might need some funding from the CRA, they might need some, or from the city, they might need some other development incentives just to get a market rate project, period. Imagine then adding the affordability controls over 30 years or in perpetuity. That makes it even that much more difficult for the developer.
And I appreciate that, and I'm thankful, Mayor, I have just a few more comments. Could you pull up, as my next comments relate to the key terms slide that you had up just a little bit ago. And, I appreciate one of the previous statements that you made about, us maybe talking about our risk tolerance as it might relate to providing some financial assistance. And I also was thinking about the grant. I think someone mentioned that as well, that, we provided quite a bit of subsidies and support for that to really promote and prompt development in that area. And so, as I was looking at these key terms to be negotiated, maybe if it isn't purchase price that this body is comfortable with negotiating it, maybe there is something else, but I would like to see some more information on this potential artificial pricing that's going on in this area. Is it folks who are holding on to it, just waiting for the day that they get their payday on some of this land? I appreciate that this developer is coming to us, that they already have skin in the game and property that's next door. And I would be supportive of, looking at reducing the purchase price, ensuring that we're not over subsidizing, and looking at, what we can do to establish a market in this area and to really spur development. I know it's something we've been talking about for a very long time. How long has this property been vacant?
As long as we've owned it, for as long as we've owned it.
And how long have we owned it?
I'll have to get back to you on that, Commissioner, but it's been, as long as I've been with the city, and I've been with an employee of the city for 11 years, there's nothing it's been vacant.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Did the developers want to say anything at this time, or is that permissible under the code of silence? I don't know.
You are at the public meeting, so it is permissible if you'd like to hear from them.
Okay.
I think that
They're good?
Oh, it's okay.
Okay, fine. Just here for the presentation. Is there a motion that you're looking for?
No, Mayor, I would just like to receive guidance from the commissioners if they think we should proceed with negotiating the terms that were discussed. And again, I have some additional notes as it relates to perpetuity and the idea of looking at the project as fully affordable. I believe those were two other things that I heard from the commissioners, other than the key terms that are to be negotiated, that I have highlighted in my presentation. But other than that, I just need guidance or the green light from the commissioners to proceed or to move in a different
I would
direction.
be in favor of your proceeding in light of some of the conversations you've heard from the dais, and see what you come back with. I mean,
Okay.
well, I'm just one person. I don't know if others want to weigh in on that or not. I see some heads nodding and a hand up. Okay.
Excellent.
Commissioner Fox?
Well, I think we could wait for the perfect project that has all the things that we're talking about now, and in that time, we might, be sitting here 4 years from now talking about still wanting to have a project. Or we could move forward and see, what we can negotiate with this team that is, willing and able to commit to having this workforce housing and see what we end up with. So
Thank you.
I support it. Thanks.
All right. Sounds like you have a consensus to at least begin the negotiations.
Excellent. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, commissioners.
All right, thank you. Item 7.1, we have a receive and file relating to a post-audit report of payroll and overtime. Can I have a motion?
Mayor, I move to receive, approve, and file the submitted audit report.
It's been moved and seconded. Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, like sign. Hearing no opposition, motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Commissioners will now turn to the consent calendar, items 8.1 through 8.8. First of all, are there any cards on consent? All right, any questions, comments on 8.1 through 8.8? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move approval of the consent calendar,
Second.
8.1 to 8.8.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, like sign. Hearing no opposition, motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Okay, item 9.1, public hearing and second reading of ordinance number 5104-24, approving the execution of a conveyance agreement for the property located at 386 South Tamarind Avenue, 810, 818, 826, 860, and 910 Evernia Street, and 913 Fern Street in West Palm Beach.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. Kimberly Rothenberg from the City Attorney's Office. This is second reading of ordinance number 510424, approving the conveyance agreement and authorizing execution of that agreement. At first reading, we had presented a draft agreement, and during that meeting, the Commission raised a number of items that they asked us to go back and look at. With cooperation and some quick movement, we were able to further negotiate with the team and have in front of you the revised agreement that includes a section 12 that was not there previously. Within that section, you will find more, if you will, meat on the bones as it relates to what the Innovation Hub could look like in the future. You will also find a local hiring provision with a commitment of 15%, and a small business and an MWBE business participation goal of 18%. And the members are here with Harvey Oyer if you want to hear from the team, but the proposed amendments to that agreement have been agreed upon between the city and Vanderbilt folks.
Very good, thank you. I just like to say that I appreciate the Vanderbilt team for truly walking the walk for some of these other provisions, including local hiring, including working to have a significant percentage, what I think a significant percentage of women-owned and small and minority-owned businesses. They are, I believe, with this agreement, demonstrating their willingness to work with the community and make sure this is something that is attractive for all residents. Any questions, comments? Commissioner Lambert, Commissioner Warren.
Thank you. I echo the mayor's comments. Thank you so much for your continued interest and curiosity about our community. And I say that because I know that a number of us have suggested community meetings, other community leaders to meet with, and I understand that you're taking us up on those suggestions, and I appreciate that. And the more that I hear from others in the community, I think there is a general consensus that this will be transformational for our community, and that it is helping our city and our community to continue to thrive and to create an ecosystem of education, opportunity, and really innovation. So thank you for that. And I guess my question just relates to the community benefits. And I know that you made some statements at our first meeting, but I'm wondering if you don't mind just representing, maybe even since the last time you met with us, more of your commitment, just so that the community has a good understanding of your commitment to the community benefits. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Nathan Green, Vice Chancellor of Government Community Relations at Vanderbilt University. We've been busy. There's a lot going on. I think if I could remind everybody of kind of these areas of aspiration that I talked about the last time we were here on the first. There was a feeling that what we were trying to do was to find our place in the community where we could be impactful. That also reminded us of some of the impacts that we were doing in Nashville, that there wasn't we knew it would be different. Our role here is going to be different. So clearly the first area of aspiration is K through 12 with our Peabody School of Education. It's a top education school. And so what we've done is we've been meeting with a lot of nonprofits and others in that field to figure out exactly what kind of collaborative partnership is necessary. Superintendent Burke has been very responsive, has a lot of different ideas. We made a commitment that we would also focus on the schools right here in West Palm Beach. I mean, we made that perfectly clear, and that's part of our commitment to this community. We've talked to Path to College and some of the stuff they're doing. We referenced a fellows program that we think has a lot of benefit. And so what is pending right now is officials from Peabody Education actually coming to town and starting to meet with some of these nonprofit leaders and school leaders for the system. I am seen as, in many ways, as the advanced team to try to figure out, are these the potential partners that we need to discuss as we're talking to some of our colleagues in Nashville. We don't have a clear pathway except for the Fellows Program, which we think is very similar to what we're doing in Nashville. There's been a lot of talk about lab schools. FAU's got a highly recognized lab school. We just participated and committed to a lab school in a part of our community in Nashville. Now, lab schools in Tennessee are a little different than lab schools in Florida. So we haven't closed the door there, and we're kind of embracing that with maybe a focus on West Palm Beach schools. The second area of aspiration that we wanted to focus on was in kind of workforce development. And so both deans, when they were here last week, both our business and engineering deans, had discussions with not only Palm Beach State College officials, but also with the president of Palm Beach Atlantic University about what could we do from a workforce development co-curriculum standpoint. I'm meeting later this week. I'm here for a couple of more days with officials from Palm Beach State College to dig a little deeper on that process. That's the second area of aspiration that we like. Oh, and I will add that last week we met with representatives of the Urban League because in Davidson County, in the Nashville area, the Urban League is frankly a leader. We're following them in many of the workforce development programs that they're doing. So we engaged some of the individuals with the Urban League here about what role they might be able to play and how they fit into that process. What we've learned in Nashville is that it's not just an A-B equation. It's usually to be really impactful in the community, it's an A, B, C, D, E. And so what we've tried to do is figure that out, who those people are. I don't think it's on my calendar this week, but we've got meetings set up with the Boys and Girls Clubs. I mean, I've talked to a number of people and they keep coming up in the conversation as just a really reliable partner that are involved in a lot of different things. So clearly we want to talk to them and figure out where they fit into that process. The other area of aspiration that we discussed was in literacy. We have a strong partnership with the Adult Literacy Council in Nashville and Davidson County. And tomorrow morning I'm touring the Literacy Coalition's offices to see if there's a way that we could play a role there. Maybe the representatives of the Urban League could assist us in that regard as well. Maybe some other nonprofits can. It's an area that we feel like we've been somewhat successful with in the Nashville area. It's a need in almost every community, and so we want to play out a little bit further on that. Now, in our discussions with your colleagues across the street with the county, another area that has come up, and it really kind of surfaced after our first initial meeting, is kind of the urban lab concept that we participate in. I know Commissioner Fox, you and I have talked about transportation. I know the mayor's talked about that. I've talked to just about everybody. We're a significant partner with Mayor O'Connell and his administration and with the city council. So there's been a desire. We've learned that there's 39 cities in this vast county of ours. And so is there a role we could play there? And so we're not sure. We play that role in Davidson County. And so we're willing to give that some thought as well. Those are our four areas of aspirations. We've met with a couple of mayors outside of West Palm Beach, just as part of our introducing ourselves to the community. We're willing to explore that some more. We're got meetings, I think, next week with our colleagues at FAU who do a little bit of that urban lab kind of process. We would want to partner with local higher education and other partners to do that. Those are areas of aspiration. We're digging into all of those as we move forward. And I guess the commitment that I would make is a reflection of the comment that the mayor made the last time I was here. And that was, this is not the end, this is really just the beginning. And so what I'd like to do is be a frequent guest to give these reports and to say, here's where we are. And here's where we're really, making progress, and we're really proud of what we're about to announce, and whether it be letters of intent or programs that we're announcing. But also, here's some areas where we need some help because we're not making the progress that we want. That's the kind of transparency that we think is really necessary to make sure that we identify the right goals, we accomplish those goals, we use data to measure whether we're actually being impactful or not. And so that's kind of where we are, and that's our commitment is the same, if not stronger than it was when I was before you.
Well, thank you. I don't think that we doubt that you are an outstanding educational institution, and it is really wonderful to continue to hear your commitment to our community and these community benefits as well. Thank you.
Great.
Commissioner Warren.
Thank you so much, Mayor. Thank you, Vice Chancellor Green. When I think of long-term opportunities for a tremendous impact in West Palm Beach, this ranks very highly. Bear it in mind that we are talking about a marginalized area, and I've heard you speaking to that. We know that in order to have a plan to eradicate poverty, it has to include creating jobs and making advancements in education opportunities. And I see that a lot of that has been touched upon here in Section 12, and that becoming more robust, where we have the innovation program, the equal opportunity program, and the local hiring. In the information that I reviewed, spoke about the initiatives and programs will be developed collaboratively with appropriate stakeholders. You've touched upon a lot of things here in your comments already. I'm curious to know, how will the stakeholders be determined? Do you have a plan of who those stakeholders will be, what type of meetings will be had in order to identify them?
I think it really all starts back to what we're familiar with in Nashville. And I know you may get tired of continuing to hear this, but we're really cognizant of finding our proper place and to be an additive, because it's a different role than the role that we're an anchor institution in Nashville. It's kind of hard to describe. So we kind of, Commissioner, when we sit down at a table and try to look at problems facing the city of Nashville, we know all the partners around the table. We know that this partner is really good at this, and that partner is really good at that, and this partner is really not good at this particular thing. And so it allows us a freer hand because of that knowledge, and I'm sure y'all are the same way here. We all have strengths, and we all have areas where we could be better at. We know that in Nashville. So we don't know that here. So I guess more than anything, we're talking to a lot of people about what is working, what are the priorities, and then who are those capable partners. At the same time, bringing maybe a perspective of, the Urban League is really a great partner in workforce development in Nashville. So is that a place, because we know that that's what we live every day. We see the leadership that they provide in Nashville. So we'll ask those questions as we go along in that process. There's no magic formula to this, and I would be remiss if I tried to tell you that there was, other than what is the objective we're trying to achieve. And then who's really already providing some great leadership, like, Path to College. And I met with Christine and going to try to get by the Catapult Center here sometime this week. Some of the stuff that she's talking about fits a little bit into the Fellows program that we wanted to do, or our focus in the West Palm schools. So we want to pursue those paths to see what comes out of that. And it may be that they're not exactly the right partner, that there's other people that are. But that's the work that we do. That's why, government comes before community in my title, but about 55% of my team is community relations. The government relations is the stuff we have to do. The community relations is the stuff we really, really want to do, that we get up in the morning and have that desire. And it's just work. You all know. And so there isn't a magic bullet. There's just a process that we need. We need guidance. That's why we're talking to a lot of people. We need references. We need people to tell us, hey, this is a program you really need to be engaged in. And then we started looking at it and what is comfortable to us, which is a place for, we call it rights to win. Do we belong in this space? So often people has a desire to kind of advance their own brand, engage in processes that maybe they don't naturally belong in, and they do more harm than they do good. Over the last 150 years, maybe Vanderbilt's made that mistake unknowingly in Nashville. We're really cognizant of finding our place.
Thank you. Thank you for that openness. When I think about specific opportunities in your innovation program and us improving literacy, I'm hoping to see something as we continue to progress that specifically identifies creating opportunities, particularly for our Title I schools, and identifying how we can do something to work with them and with Michael Burke and others
Right.
to create a very robust, very intentional program that opens the door, because that's the only way that we're going to change the outcome in
We
the community.
totally
The only way
agree.
we're gonna
We
change
totally
poverty.
agree, Commissioner. And the Fellows Program is totally focused at that population. And that's, and if we have to advance that or expand that or come up with other ways to engage, we will definitely do that. Educational opportunity is a key element, as you said, of success. And that's why we raise a lot of money for scholarships. It's because we want to provide that access. We want that opportunity. We're in the opportunity business, frankly. And so I hear you loud and clear.
Thank you so much, and that's fantastic. And I believe you. In our conversations, you were already saying things that were above my pay grade, and I loved, the approach that you've had at Vanderbilt. I'm looking forward to seeing that happening here in West Palm Beach. I've just happened to be of a mindset that I like things to be written and understood
Sure.
clearly.
Sure.
And I also like the accountability tools and ensuring what we're expecting, because we know that as things progress, this body will likely change, and there'll be other people that will be before you with different philosophies. So it's just important to me that everything is clear, even though I know that it's in its infancy, but that the goals are there that we're looking to achieve. And then from the city perspective, Madam Attorney, I did not see in here, and perhaps you can direct me to where the language is that shows how we will ensure accountability. How are we going to look at the measures and be a part of this process as we continue to move forward?
The provisions that were changed are later in the document. Specifically, the area that says which are surviving provisions, it's under Section 28. Section 12 is one of the provisions that will survive closing. So once it's closed, the obligations that are the contractual obligations will continue to live. And there's another provision within these they're kind of like boilerplate provisions that includes a statement that should someone fail to do what survives closing, that the city would have the rights to enforce it through any means available at law, including injunctive relief, where you would go to the court and ask the court to require the the breaching party to do what they said they were going to do, if in fact that happened. It's not been my experience to date, hoping that it doesn't have to be there, but those provisions are in the contract, and they were agreed to by Vanderbilt, and they were very easy to work with, and it was a pleasure.
Excellent. That's exactly what I was looking for. Thank you.
Commissioner Fox, would you?
Well, I guess my question is, for most of my friends that had a very bad weekend because they go to Florida schools, I'm curious how your team did this weekend.
You're curious? You just want to give them a chance to brag.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was an excellent question,
That was a plant.
Commissioner Fox. We were victorious. We defeated Virginia Tech in overtime. So
Never too easy.
we are 1-0, and I'm taking screenshots of every SEC status that we could possibly have, and so as to where we are.
It's not
Yes.
too early for us to start scouting for a good place to watch. in the days to come. Anyway, I just wanted to say thank you again for all that you've done to, I feel like the most popular person in town that I have your cell phone number because so many people have called to try to get it from me. So I appreciate that you've taken time to meet with so many of them. You have a lot of new fans at the Downtown Neighborhood Association, so thank you for spending so much time with them. I know that you're going to be meeting with some of our entrepreneur community later in this week, and I'm trying to space all of these introductions out, but I do appreciate all you've done to just really get to know our community and to find the places that you're going to fit, and I look forward to supporting you tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Peduzzi?
Thank you, Mayor. While I don't have your cell phone number, I echo the comments of my colleague, Commissioner Fox. I appreciate the work that you're doing to get to know our community so that you can really be as impactful as possible. And I'm just as excited about you, Vanderbilt, the potential of Vanderbilt coming here as I was on first reading, even more so now. I'm happy to hear of your commitment to our area schools, in particularly West Palm Beach schools, elementary, secondary, and higher education. I did have the opportunity to speak with Dr. Schwinn of Palm Beach Atlantic, and I'm grateful that you reached out to her and to others in higher academia and have expressed your willingness to work with them. I don't want them to see this as you're coming in and pushing them out. It's really an opportunity for all of us to work together and to really build something special, and I appreciate your efforts.
By the way, Mr. Green, you know it's not a coincidence that you got that historic victory since you started talking to us. I'm just saying, hopefully that did not go unnoticed by you. All right, any other questions, comments? Commissioner Warren.
I do. Do you have a plan to work with a local construction manager and design team? Are we looking to involve businesses from West Palm Beach?
We're committed, as part of the agreement, that we're committed to having local hires as a part of our deal. We're in the middle of, my colleague Eric Kopstein, who is flying in tonight, is beginning that process of site plans and all the other stuff. And so I think I mentioned in one meeting before that one of the first things we did when it came to minority and women-owned business and small businesses is that you got to be a role model. You got to want to do business with those communities, and you got to be an easy business to do business for those individuals to do business with. And I think, the creation of a vendor program, the commitment, I think this agreement reflects our values. And so we're excited about that. I mean, that's how bonds get made, is we do business together and we help it. Part of the economic impact study that we have is that investment, that local investment. So yes.
Thank you.
Okay, we do have a card. Dennis Grady.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. Dennis Grady, CEO of the Chamber of Commerce of the Palm Beaches, here to reinforce what we said 2 weeks ago. Our board, our chamber unanimously endorsed moving ahead on this project. This is truly transformational, not only for the city of West Palm Beach, but for all of Palm Beach County and our entire region. I want to commend commissioners, the mayor's office, and especially staff for the expeditious manner in which you have approached getting this item moved. That's a great example. Great examples should be followed, and it's my sincere hope that it will be. Thank you.
Very subtle, Dennis. Okay, any other comments? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I'm very excited to make a motion to approve ordinance number 5104-24 on second reading.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Discussion. Hearing none, Madam Clerk, can you read the ordinance, please?
Ordinance number 5104-24, an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of West Palm Beach, Florida, approving the conveyance of certain property located at 386 South Tamarind Avenue 810, 818, 826, 860, and 910 Vernier Street, and 913 Fern Street, West Palm Beach, to be used for higher educational purposes, authorizing execution of a conveyance agreement, providing an effective date, and for other purposes.
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, like sign. Hearing no opposition, motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Item 9.2, public hearing and second reading of ordinance number 5108-24, amending the restated employees defined benefit retirement system to allow a change in beneficiary in certain circumstances.
Nancy Yurchek, Deputy City Attorney. This ordinance will allow a member of the defined benefit pension plan to change their spouse or beneficiary one time after retiring. This is second reading. There's been no changes since first reading.
Very good. Any questions, comments? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move to approve ordinance number 5108-24 on second reading.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Discussion? Hearing none. Madam Clerk, can you read the ordinance, please?
Ordinance number 5108-24, an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of West Palm Beach, Florida, amending Chapter 62, Personnel and Retirement, Article 3, Pensions and Retirement, Division 5, Restated Employee Defined Benefit Retirement System, at Section 62-176, Definitions, and Section 62-195, Retirement Allowance Options, to add a definition for spouse, and to add the ability for a change in beneficiary under certain conditions, providing a conflicts clause and a severability clause, providing a codification clause, and providing an effective date, and for other purposes.
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 All those opposed, like sign. Hearing no opposition, motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Item 9.3, public hearing and first reading of ordinance number 5109-24, amending the City of West Palm Beach Code of Ordinances, Chapter 78, Article 15, to revise the duration for which right-of-way permits may be issued and to correct scrivener's errors.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. Kevin Volbrecht, Director of Engineering Services. This ordinance essentially is going to be modified, hopefully, with your approval. Currently, the right-of-way permits are codified such that they are issued for a maximum of 30 days, including any kind of road closure that may be associated with those. As you know, that there's quite a bit of construction work going on in the city with all of the tremendous growth and development. Sometimes these right-of-way permits need to be issued for a longer period of time. And so what we are asking is that we can revise this, the code such that it will give the engineering department the discretion to issue a right-of-way permit with a road closure associated with it for a maximum of 1 year. And if anything's longer than a year, it would need to come back to the City Commission for approval. Currently, that's a 30-day period. That would make the process much more efficient for us in such that we wouldn't have to keep issuing extensions of permits or having somebody reapply for another permit. Plus, it also encourages the developers that are doing the projects to move forward with such things that they know that they're going to be able to get the permit for the length of time that may be necessary for that. Now, we do go through a lot of coordination with all of the road closures that take place in the city. We want to make sure that we don't have conflicts. We want to make sure that, you know, if one street has got lane closed or fully closed or sidewalks are closed, that any other closures that we're going to do are going to still allow people to get from point A to B to C to D without those conflicting with each other. And so we ask that you would please consider approval of this ordinance to give the authority of the engineering department to issue a permit for up to 1 year.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Commissioner Fox?
Thank you. Thanks, Kevin. I know we talked about this a bit in agenda review, but can you describe a case where you've given a permit extension? I mean, is this happening so often that we have to have an ordinance about this rather than you coming back? I guess, you know, my concern is that, like I mentioned to you before, that it's one thing to talk about City Place wanting to close a road where they're the only ones impacted. They're impacting the businesses that they're renting to, and no one else is impacted by that. But then there's other situations where I look at Tamarind Avenue or something that when we make these decisions and they're small businesses that it's hard to get to, into their place, or if there's residents that, a lot of times the residential ones, I think, are probably different because the residents are happy to have the road work done. But when we're talking more specifically, I think about these businesses that are impacted, like, for example, the one in Northwood that is closed now. I'm concerned that when you give somebody a year, they take a year. If you give them 6 months and tell them they have to be finished, then, then maybe they are. So I guess I just want to understand better, going from 30 days to a year is a really extreme amount of, extension that we're giving your department. And I just want to make sure that there's some way that we can, if we do move forward with this, that we can lessen the impact to the small businesses, or, what kind of community engagement will be done, what kind of incentives or something will be done to, ensure that the businesses are staying open and successful despite this road work that's going on. Thanks.
Well, first of all, we're not just going to go issue permits for up to a year for anybody, for everybody, because it depends on what the construction is going to really require. Sometimes they may be able to do something in less than 30 days, and we're not going to give them a permit for longer than that. In other situations, if we want to be able to allow for these development projects to proceed, they may need to take a road closure or lane closure for a longer period of time, and we want to be able to facilitate that, methodically and intelligently, such that we're going to take those things into consideration, what impacts that may have to the surrounding community, the other businesses and residents that are adjacent to wherever the property is that's being constructed upon. So I think it just gives us the discretion to be able to, and the flexibility to be able to actually consciously determine what needs to be done in order to allow that project to go forward in a more efficient manner. And I think that's really why we're asking to be able to change this code for this reason. And as far as community engagement goes, we certainly want to broadcast out that something is going to be taking place for a period of time. We try to get that. We get on a website every week. We put out all of our road closures on the website. We meet with other stakeholders on a biweekly basis about all road closures within our area, including FDOT, the county. We notify the DDA. We notify basically the community itself by putting everything on a website once a week with all the closures. And we do try to coordinate those such that we don't have conflicts, and we want to make sure that we're not going to surprise anybody that something's going to be taking place. If we felt that it was something that was extremely high profile, I think we would want to bring that to the commission, because we don't want to take the responsibility on ourselves to just make a decision that we feel is going to be a strong impact. And so the discretion of the engineering department to be able to bring something to the commission instead of just making the decision on ourselves is still available within the code. So we would do that for sure. Okay?
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move to approve ordinance number 5109-24 on first reading and schedule second reading on September 16th, 2024.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Discussion? Hearing none. Madam Clerk, can you read the ordinance, please?
Ordinance number 5109-24. An ordinance of the City Commission of the City of West Palm Beach, Florida, amending the City of West Palm Beach Code of Ordinances at Chapter 78, Streets, Sidewalks, and Public Places, Article 15, Public Right-of-Way Use, Section 78-433, Permit Conditions, to amend the duration for which right-of-way permits may be issued at Section 78-436 to clarify the provisions regarding revocation of permits and to correct scrivener's errors, providing for codification, conflicts, and severability, providing for an effective date, and for other purposes.
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, like sign. Hearing no opposition, motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Item 9.4, public hearing and second reading of ordinance number 5106-24, a request by Shane Brodnix of Urban Design Studio on behalf of WPB Press LLC for a future land use map amendment to change the future land use designation of 8.39 of the overall 11.57 acres of the subject area consisting of two parcels located at 2751 South Dixie Highway and 501 Monceau Road from Commercial C to Commercial East CE.
This item is proposed
that's
motion
right.
to continue. If someone would make the motion, it's there on your agenda.
All right, I need a motion to continue this item, please.
Mayor, I move to continue this to second reading of ordinance number 5106-24 to the City Commission meeting scheduled on September 16th, 2024 at 5 p.m. in the City Commission chambers of City Hall, 401 Clematis Street, West Palm Beach. This item is not to be considered before 5:01 p.m.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, like sign. Hearing no opposition, motion carries unanimously. Thank you. We now move to the quasi-judicial portion of our meeting. I need the commissioners to make their disclosures. And we will begin with Commissioner Peduzzi.
As to items 10.1 and 10.3, I have not had ex parte communications. I have not received written communications. I have not conducted an investigation. I have not made a site visit, nor have I received any expert opinions. As to matter 10.2, I have had ex parte communications with a representative of the applicant. I have not received written communications. I have not conducted an investigation. I have not made a site visit, nor have I received any expert opinions. I request that these disclosures and all written communications be made a part of the record.
Commissioner Lambert.
Thank you, Mayor. As to item 10.1, I have had ex parte communications with representatives of the applicant. I have not received written communications. I have not conducted an investigation. I have made a site visit. I have not received expert opinions. As to item 10.2, I have had ex parte communications with representatives of the applicant. I have not received written communications. I have not conducted an investigation, not made a site visit, and not received expert opinions. As to item 10.3, I have not had ex parte communications, not received written communications, not conducted an investigation, not made a site visit, nor have I received expert opinions. I request that these disclosures and all written communications be made part of the record. Thank you.
Commissioner Warren.
Thank you, Mayor. As to items 10.1 and 10.3, I have not had ex parte communications, not received written communications, not conducted an investigation. I have not made a site visit, and I have not received expert opinions. As to item 10.2, I have had ex parte communications with the applicant's representative. I have not received written communications. I have not conducted an investigation. I have not made a site visit. I have not received expert opinions. I request that these disclosures and all written communications be made part of the record.
Commissioner Fox.
As to items 10.1 and 10.3, I have not had ex parte communications. I have not received written communications. I have not conducted an investigation. I have not made a site visit. I have not received expert opinions. As to item 10.2, I have had ex parte communications with the applicant. I have not received written communications. I have not conducted an investigation. I have not made a site visit. I have not received expert opinions. I request that these disclosures and all written communications be made part of the record.
And since there are only 4 commissioners here tonight, I will make my disclosures in the event I have to vote. As to items 10.1, 10.2, and 10.3, I have not had ex parte communications. I have not received written communications. I have not conducted an investigation. I have not made a site visit. I have not received expert opinions. I request that these disclosures and all written communications be made part of the record. Madam Clerk, can you swear in all witnesses, please?
Would everyone wishing to speak on items 10.1 through 10.3 please stand and raise your right hand? Do you swear that the testimony you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do. Thank you.
Okay. Item 10.1, public hearing and second reading of ordinance number 5107-24. This is to be continued as well. All right.
Yes, Mayor.
So I need a motion then, please.
Mayor, I move to continue second reading of ordinance number 5107-24 and resolution number 162-24 to the City Commission meeting September 16th, 2024, in the City Commission chambers located at 401 Clematis Street, West Palm Beach. This item will be called to be heard no sooner than 5:01 p.m.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, like sign. Hearing no opposition, motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Item 10.2, public hearing of resolution number 164-24 regarding a request by Roger Ramdeen of Schutzen Bowen on behalf of City Place Retail LLC for the approval of a major plan development amendment to the City Place Commercial Plan Development, CPD, to amend the Rosemary Square East sub-area building envelope table within the Rosemary Square Core Development Regulations related to increasing the height of the podium for Building B within the sub-area. Mr. Warrior.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners. Harvey Oyer on behalf of Related to seek your approval in a resolution to have a major PD amendment to the Rosemary Square Development Regulations. It's a fairly straightforward request. It is to change the regulations in the east sub-area, which is the sub-area of City Place. And by the way, no sooner did we change the name of the City Place Development Regulations to Rosemary Square, but now we need to change it back again. But that is not the request before you this evening. It is the east sub-area, which is where the movie theater in Brio used to be, that is now a vacant lot that will house, hopefully soon, 2 large Class A office buildings, which you have already approved. But this is a request for a minor change on the east building only to allow up to 10 feet of additional height on the parking podium, east tower only. So the site is in the box in red. You know the site well. The parking podium height of the surrounding zoning districts already is at the number that we're seeking from you, and quite frankly, probably should have been from the beginning. This was an experiment to see if we could use stackers for the parking, and it turns out that that technology is not as advanced as we had hoped and anticipated it would be by now. So we are going to have to do it the old-fashioned way and put another level of parking. Someday, hopefully, we can convert that to usable space. It does not change the usable square footage of the building. It does not change the parking ratio. It does not change the number of parking spaces. It is simply taking what would have been a single story with double stacked cars on mechanical stackers and turning that into 2 separate floors. This illustrates what that would look like. Where presently the approved buildings are at the green hashed line, we're asking you for permission to have the parking podium go up a maximum of 10 feet. It'll take the building up by only about 8 feet in total height up to the red line. For your purposes and the public's purposes, you will see no difference in the building because the entire parking podium has fenestration. It's all windows. It looks like the office building. It doesn't look like a parking garage. I would direct you to 360 Rosemary, a couple of blocks to the north. That entire building is glass windows. You don't know that there's a parking garage behind it. Same would be the case here. You would not know that there's a parking garage behind it, let alone 10 feet higher. It does increase the building height by about 8 feet to fit this in, still some 35 feet below the maximum height under the code for the building, so we're not in danger of being too tall on the building. Again, it does not change the parking ratios, simply creating an additional floor. Also part of the same proposed code change is on the tower upper story setbacks. You'll see in red in the 2 boxes on the far right-hand column that the parking uses would have an additional setback from 40 feet to 55 feet. and on Hibiscus and on the Gardenia side from 25 feet to 40 feet. So that increases the upper story setbacks on the parking podium. We believe it meets with all of the standards found in Section 94-32A, which are the standards for approving an amendment, a major amendment. Staff agrees with us. We respectfully request your approval of a major PD amendment. Staff recommends approval, and at the July Planning Board meeting, they unanimously recommended approval to this body. With that, Mr. Mayor, I stand ready for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Oyer. Any questions for the applicant before we call staff up? Okay. Mr. Schneider?
Good evening. For the record, Eric Schneider, Principal Planner. Not going to go through exactly what Mr. Oyer went through if I am available for questions, but staff did find that the request meets all of the amendment standards, and to verify, the Planning Board also found that the request met all the amendment standards and recommended approval to, or recommended approval for the request to the board, the commission.
Very good. Any questions for staff? All right, we don't have any cards on this, do we? Okay. If there's no more questions or discussion, I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move to approve resolution number 164-24. This motion is based upon the application submitted, the staff report, factual testimony, the recommendation of the planning board, and the findings that the request complies with the comprehensive plan and with the standards in section 94-32 of the city's zoning and land development regulations.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, like sign. Hearing no opposition, motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Item 10.3, public hearing of resolution number 165-24 regarding the approval of a minor subdivision to create the Palm Beach Outlets Replat 2 plat consisting of 2 development tracts for approximately 86 acres located generally at 1801 Palm Beach Lakes Boulevard. The request was submitted by Molly Brown and Brown & Phillips, Inc. on behalf of Palm Beach Outlets 1 LLC and S. Reed Palm Beach Lakes Boulevard LLC. Mr.
Good evening. For the record, Brian Seymour, attorney for the applicant. I'm subbing in here. Typically, this is just a survey issue, but I'm the only one in town, and I've been representing the outlets for about, 14 years. So every time something comes up, I can always throw myself to it. This is very straightforward. We currently have a couple of areas. There's 2 lots, the marketplace and the main outlets, that are currently platted. We're looking at one small area where you can see the current track line in yellow that goes through some parking areas. We're really just shortening up a little bit, some pieces, and then expanding over so it rounds out to meet the existing condition. This does meet all of the requirements of the code and the statute, so we would ask for approval.
Very good. Thank you. Any questions for the applicant before we hear from staff? All right, Mr. Schneider.
Good evening once again, Eric Schneider, Principal Planner. It is pretty simple as you just heard. Staff did find that it meets all of the criteria for a subdivision plat, a minor subdivision plat. This did not need to go to planning board because of the type of application, so the only recommendation to you is from staff of approval. Are there any questions of staff?
Thank you. Any questions for staff? Any other questions or discussions generally? If not, I will entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move approval of resolution number 165-24, approving a minor subdivision to create the Palm Beach Outlets Replat 2 plat. This motion is based upon the factual testimony presented, the application submitted, the staff report, and the findings that the plat complies with all applicable provisions of Chapter 177 Florida statutes and is consistent with the comprehensive plan and complies with the subdivision design standards set forth in section 94-342 of the city's zoning and land development regulations.
Thank you. It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, like sign. Hearing no opposition, motion carries unanimously. Thank you. All right, we will now turn to comments from the public. Do we have any cards? Okay, Nicholas Bixler.
Yes, hi. Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. Thank you. I'll try to keep this quick since this is a relatively quick meeting tonight. But
Just say your name for the record.
Oh, yes,
please.
Nicholas Bixler, 1970 South Dixie Highway. Some of you may know me through my involvement with Connect West Palm Beach. I just wanted to take this public comment opportunity to invite you all and the public to a cleanup of the Clear Lake Trail that we are holding Saturday, September 7th at 9 a.m. in conjunction with Keep West Palm Beach Beautiful. In addition, I wanted to personally thank the city, its staff, for its commitment to projects such as this that highlight walking, biking, and mobility in our community. To say the least, not only is the adage, if you build it, they will come true, but if you build it, the community will gather and care for it. That's part of why we're holding this cleanup, to show you our appreciation for projects like this. And it's our desire not only to keep this area clean and clear, since it's next to our water supply, but also to generate further interest in the trail, which hopefully will support future projects and opportunities like this. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. That is the only card. Okay, we'll now turn to comments from members of the dais. We'll start with you, Commissioner Warren.
Thank you, Mayor. September is dedicated to Suicide Prevention Awareness Month, a time to raise awareness and to shift public perception, spread hope, and share vital information to people affected by suicide. If you or someone you know is struggling or in crisis, help is available. Call or text 988 or chat 988lifeline.org to reach the 988 Suicide and Crisis Prevention Lifeline. September is National Sickle Cell Awareness Month, designated by Congress to help focus attention on the need for research and treatment of sickle cell disease. A time to raise awareness about sickle cell disease is management and treatment. Sickle cell is the most common inherited blood disorder in the world. It affects globally more than 20 million people. Did you know that blood transfusions are the most critical treatment for sickle cell patients? And sickle cell was first diagnosed in 1910, and there still is not a universal cure for the disease. September is also National Infant Mortality Awareness Month. It brings awareness to the rate of babies that die each year before they reach their first birthday. While in the U.S. infant mortality rate has declined overall in recent years, the infant mortality rate for non-Hispanic Black communities continues to be more than twice that of other nationalities. Reducing infant mortality in the United States requires public health agencies to work together with health providers, community-based organizations, and other partners to help address the social, behavioral, and health risk factors that continue to contribute to infant mortality and affect birth outcomes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Fox?
Thank you so much. I, too, was going to talk about the event this weekend at the Clear Lake Trail, so thank you very much to Nick for mentioning that. It starts at 9, and the meeting in the Home Depot parking lot. I also wanted to mention that there have been some coyote sightings at the trail. I don't think they're going to be out in daytime like that, but just everyone be vigilant. I think that there's been some sightings also in Flamingo Park, and so if you're out there walking your dogs, it's always just good to be aware of all your surroundings. I wanted to congratulate Officer Buxton on 25 years with the West Palm Beach PD. He is, I think we can all agree, our basically West Palm Beach treasure, and so I'm very happy that he's going to be with us for another 25 years, he says. Thank you. Congratulations to our own Administrator Johnson on her Leadership Award nominee for the Chamber of Commerce Athena Awards, and Jennifer Ferriel was also nominated for a separate award. So unfortunately, I'm not able to make it, but it is in the next couple weeks. I hope you're all available to join for lunch and celebrate our West Palm Beach team. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Very good. Commissioner Peduzzi?
Thank you, Mayor. Just wanted to let everyone know that you have a standing invitation to attend our Criminal Justice Advisory Committee meetings that are held the second Tuesday of each month. The next one coming up is Tuesday, September 10th at 9 a.m. in the police community room at the police department. We have a lot of good discussions about ways of preventing crime and also serving our community, and we help to schedule a lot of worthwhile events with our police department, and everyone is welcome to come to that meeting. That's all I have.
Very good. Commissioner Lambert.
Well, everyone was so short. They must have known I was going to talk a lot. So I apologize. I'm going to take up all the rest of their time.
Resist the temptation, please.
Well, the first item that I have, and some of you on the dais may have heard about this, is a issue welling up in the Flamingo Park neighborhood, but I'm curious as if it's, an issue in other neighborhoods as well. So the issue is regarding some code enforcement as it relates to landscaping in our swales. And I want to say I'm in full support of our city codes, as I know that it's essential for maintaining safety and order in our neighborhoods. However, I believe that we need to look at this, always with all of our policies with fairness and understanding of unique situations of our residents, and just make sure that, we're taking a fresh look if need be. Some homeowners in these instances have been following longstanding practices that have not been in compliance with our current code, and I think it's important that we take these historical practices into account, as well as consider safety and, of course, drainage concerns as well. The current code mandates specific types of plantings for swales that may not be suitable for all neighborhoods, and particularly those with mature trees and shaded streets, as in Flamingo Park. I am grateful and thank you to Administrator Johnson. She met with our code enforcement team, did a lot of research, provided us with, and myself with information. However, I believe that our current code language is somewhat restrictive and may not fully align with the character of and the history of some of our neighborhoods. So to address this, or at least to discuss it, I wanted to see if we could schedule a commission work session to review and potentially revise this code and at least discuss it, allow us to explore whether or not the current regulations are overly restrictive as it relates to these types of neighborhood situations, and how we might be able to be a little bit more flexible or inclusive. That's my first request.
Keep going.
Okay. My second request is just as a reminder to our community to come out and cheer on our fire department, who's hosting its on September 8th, they're hosting their 6th annual 9/11 Memorial Stair Climb. I know that some of us plan to be there for that. I need to get a tally and report in so that we can all encourage everybody who's doing it. It is a very emotional and beautiful remembrance ceremony, and I'm proud that our city partakes in this. And so I encourage anybody, even if you're not participating, to come out. It really is a tremendous event. Wanted to let residents know that there is some work being conducted on South Flagler. This is seawall and sidewalk repairs. They're expected to start within the next 60 days, and you may already be seeing some orange barricades along the walkway. That's the area that's going to be worked on. Additionally, Washington Road between Roosevelt and Royal Palm Road will have partial road closures as we're starting to work on streetscape redesign, including new underground utilities, sidewalks, storm drainage improvements. And Flagler Drive sidewalk between Arcona and Barcelona will be closed for the week of September 2nd. And then finally, I won't be here when we kick off. September 15th starts Hispanic Heritage Month, so I did just want to share that I was very honored to be nominated and selected to represent Palm Beach County in the 23rd Hispanic Women of Distinction Awards event that was held in Fort Lauderdale. This was a regional event. I think there were, maybe 600, 700 attendees. It was a tremendous a very emotional event of showing pride for Hispanic communities from many different Hispanic cultures. It was recognition of 12 women who support the Latino communities, and you will be very proud to know we had a good contingency, about 25 individuals from Palm Beach County and West Palm Beach there to represent and to cheer us on. And, you know, I know that I was the one selected and honored, but I really do see it as an extension of the work we do here in the city for our Hispanic communities. And I just want to say thank you for helping us to recognize all voices in our city. Thank you.
Congratulations, Commissioner, on that recognition and award. To your first request, make sure I understood the request. I'm familiar with the issue. The city administrator and I have been discussing it. What I am not in favor of is retroactively or making an exception to the code violations for those on a retroactive basis. It creates too dangerous of a precedent. We have had other folks who've come in complaining about they didn't like the code and doing certain things. You may remember the artificial grass situation. There have been similar situations to this where things have been planted in the swale up in the north end of the city where we did not make an exception. So I'm not in favor of retroactively waiving, the violations. I'm sorry, the code is a code, and I imagine that those contractors who planted these plants in the swales were well aware of the code and may not have advised the owner, or the owner themselves may have been aware and just simply ignored it. But the code is a code, and so if we create a precedent that when there are a number of people in a certain neighborhood that violate the code, we're just going to ignore the code, that's a dangerous precedent. I'm not in favor of that as the mayor of the city. Now, as to whether we should take another look at the code requirements, we can have staff do that in the normal course. I don't think we need a workshop to do that. We can simply ask them to reassess the code in accordance with whatever the normal procedure is for looking at our codes from time to time. And I can have staff take a look at the situation to see if there are some adjustments that should be made. But again, it's not going to be applied on a retroactive basis. Those violations are the violations. Yes. Understood. Yeah, and again, it creates too dangerous of a precedent. All right, so thank you for mentioning 9/11. It's next Wednesday. Unfortunately, I'll be out of town, but this marks the 23rd year of 9/11. I'm sure we can all remember where we were on that unfortunate day. So to honor and remember all the precious lives lost in the brutal attacks, on September 11, 2001, the West Palm Beach firefighters will be hosting their 6th annual 9/11 Memorial Stair Climb and their inaugural 5K walk and run for charity on Sunday, September 8, 2024. The event takes place at 515 North Flagler Drive, West Palm Beach at 9 a.m. And believe me, I am so sorry I'm going to miss that. I really am, but I have to travel. Also, on this Thursday, September 5th at 6 p.m., the West Palm Beach Community Redevelopment Agency will be holding a community workshop where they will be discussing the Paint, Plant, and Pave program, as well as answering any questions to complete the applications. As you all know, the Paint, Plant, and Pave program allows homeowners and tenants to apply for funding toward exterior facade home improvements with the help of the West Palm Beach CRA. Improvements such as exterior painting, window repair, replacement, landscaping, and more incorporate to the program. Visit West Palm Beach, WPB.org for complete details. I don't have the location in here. Anybody know the location of that? Where is it?
It's at Pleasant City Community Center.
The Pleasant City Community Center. Thursday, September 5th at 6 p.m., Pleasant City Community Center. Also, mark your calendars for Wednesday, September 18th for another exciting evening of jazz featuring Spirit of Oya. As part of our Soul in the City series, this jazz vocalist will captivate the sounds of soulful jazz, soul, and gospel as she weaves joy, love, and positivity into every note. I could be one of those DJs on a smooth jazz station. The event takes place at the Lake Pavilion, 101 South Flagler, from 7 to 9 p.m. Please visit WPB.org for tickets and more details. Let us not forget, even though it's been kind of quiet, hurricane season is here, and September 10th marks the historic height of the season for South Florida. So please, please, please be prepared and ready. Let's not be complacent in case we have to face a major impact storm. It is imperative to be fully prepared for the possibility of a storm throughout the hurricane season, which ends on November 30th. I encourage everyone in the sound of my voice to watch the city's new hurricane special, Surviving the Season, on the city's WPB-TV YouTube channel. It's chock full of important information regarding preparation and what to do in the face of a storm. So that's all I have. By the way, Commissioner, to your point about Hispanic Heritage Week, we are aware that you're going to be out of town, and Commissioner Warren as well, so we're going to move that celebration back to September 30th. Anyway, God bless everyone. God bless the great city of West Palm Beach. Good night. This meeting is adjourned.